We need to talk about West Brom. Before we get into this video, I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan, a season ticket for over 10 years, and I thought I'd have a sit down and discuss what is currently going on at my club because there is absolutely loads going on. We're being spoken about in the media constantly at the minute. It is a bit of an odd situation. I don't think I've ever felt the way I do and felt so conflicted about the Albion as the way I do right now. So we're going to get into it and kind of discuss a lot of things that are going on currently at the Albion. So we're going to start off with the league table. We've got it up here. We are currently sat seventh in the league, and this is where it is really weird. And I feel like a lot of West Brom fans across the country right now will agree with me in this situation. This here, 10 draws, is where I don't know how I feel. I feel so contested and so conflicted. How do I actually feel? We're currently sat seventh in the league, so just outside of the playoffs. We have won one game in 10, but have drawn nine. It's just bizarre. Like the current situation for the Albion and the way we've been playing, if you look at this, goals for 19 goals, compared to everyone in and around us, it's really quite a poor showing. But then this is also very good because then you compare us to Watford and Middlesbrough and everything like that for the goals conceded. West Brom currently aren't the most exciting team, and it's a bit of a weird one because I know there was a lot of boos that rang out against Corbrand recently. Am I Corbrand out? I'm going to start off and say straight away, absolutely no chance. I'm fully Corbrand, and I understand the situation that's gone on. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, well, we're playing really boring, we're playing awfully, to get him out, because I know a lot of people call him Carlos Borbrand and things like that, and the amount of goals we've seen at the club recently. But I think there's like a deeper rooted problem, something that needs to change quite significantly, quite drastically, and quite fast. Because my worry about the Albion is, I don't mind, and I understand that everyone's pushing at the moment the fact, and this is the way I kind of look at it, at least we're not losing. And I think that is a huge part. We've only lost 2 games this season, which is the same as Burnley and Sheffield United. Like, that is incredible, but it is the amount of draws we've got, which is obviously the problem. It doesn't take a genius to work that out. And I think the reason why is because we're playing such sensible football, such sensible defensive football, where I understand when people talk about getting out the league, it is all about the defensive side of it. And I understand that defensively we are so strong. We don't really ever look like conceding, but we never look like scoring. And I think it's not just as simple as we're playing with everyone behind the ball. I don't think it's as simple as everyone is playing so defensively. I think it is partly down to the squad. Now, I'm not trying to find excuses here. And I looked at the squad recently. I had a quick look through the kind of attacking talent that we've got going forward and kind of looked at some of the system we've been playing. But I think this is where you can see here the goals scored. Josh Madger, obviously been incredible. Grant also stepped up massively. Those two have been by far the best two players going forward. But that's then, after that, this is where the problem is. The fact that we've only got 3 players that have scored more than 1 goal this season. 3 players. We are 18 games in and only 3 players have scored more than 1 goal. And I think that's where there's a big problem. And I understand we've got some quite attacking talent. We've got your likes of Fellows and you've got Grant, you've got Madger. Yes, I know we've got injuries to DK, and supposedly we all thought that players like Dobbin were going to be bigger. Johnston, since he signed, hasn't been the player that he once was. Swift hasn't stepped up. Wallace hasn't stepped up. But this is where I feel really conflicted now because these are talented players going forward. So something's not right. And I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. Some of these players that we've relied on in previous seasons, your likes of your players like your Johnston, who I think, going to be real, hasn't been the player that we all expected. Dean Garner hasn't had a great season so far. And yes, I know he's played a bit part role, a few injuries coming on off the bench. Jed Wallace, for me, it's going to sound horrible, but I think his career's finished out the Albion. Even though he's the captain, I don't think he's good enough, really. And Dobbin's been quite poor since the signing. Like, this is where the problem is, and I think it's the strength and depth. And I think when you compare ourselves to some of the attacking talent in these sides, in your likes of Leeds, Sunderland, even Borough at times, Burnley, Sheffield United, that's where I think we're lacking. And I understand that we're going to be playing a slightly more negative side of football because we haven't got the attacking talent that some of these other teams have. But I also think we've got to give it a little bit more. I think that's where Corbrand, for me, there's a little bit of fault lies with him because I think we're playing very, very, just very sensible football. I want us to really go for it. And I feel like we need to take the shackles off with some of these players because we know the likes of Johnston, if they're given space and given a bit more of a free role to really go at teams, we can see a little bit more. But defensively, when he comes on, you can see he's been asked to do a lot more than he usually is. Players like Dobbin aren't good enough. And it's a real shame. I look at Dobbin as a signing and I thought I was quite excited going into it because I read that he'd done quite well in pre-season for Aston Villa, and I think even at Everton he was spoken about quite well. The problem is he plays, and the way I describe it all the time is it's like a kid playing adults football. He doesn't look like he's fully developed, and I think maybe if there is an ability to send him back, if we could, I'd love that. But I don't think I'm not sure there is after what I've read. Players like Swift haven't really shone the way they normally would, and that's the problem. And there's so many attacking players that we've got some good players that aren't just delivering, and that's the problem. I think this is a mixture of yes, as I said, Corban playing quite a defensively like a heavy system, but then this is where I then kind of lead on to. I understand why we're playing the defensively heavy system because if you look at some of the injuries we've had in the defence, we've not been able to have a real consistent side. I know Carl Bartley's had an injury. I know he's back now. Semi Ajayi's also been injured. Paddy McNair injured. And so we've ended up playing with a bit of a makeshift back four because if you look at the last match, we go through that team. This is kind of a makeshift. I know Hegum really shouldn't be playing left back. He's a centre back. But like I don't mind it, but I understand this is probably the best it has been in recent weeks. But we're playing these kind of formations. We're playing so defensively to like overcompensate for the players that we were missing with the fact that we didn't have because Holgate's a really weird one. Is Holgate a right back, a centre back? I'm never sure. He's been very good actually since he's come in, especially in recent weeks. I really liked him against Norwich as well in the recent game. But that's what I think. I think a lot of the injuries and then the situation in the midfield as well, not having everyone fully fit and things like that. That's where we've kind of overcompensated then to be a bit more defensively strong. But then that's then meant that we're not as strong going forward. And I look at some of these players, your likes of Grant and Madger, who need other players to help him because Madger drops in so nicely. I absolutely love the way he plays. He plays as kind of a second striker on his own at times. And I really love the way he links up. But there's been so many times this season where he's been playing as that kind of like second striker, being dropping in deep, and there's no one getting really beyond him, bar the wingers. And I feel like that's something that needs to change because quite clearly, if you look at the table now, and the fact that we're still within touching distance of the playoffs just shows you the situation that the league is in currently, and it just shows you how we just need to really go for it. And I feel like this is like a turning point now because some of these sides now are starting to pull away. You're like Sheffield United, 10 points clear now, and they're 8 points clear of the of leaving the playoffs. Slowly, teams are going to start pulling away. It is going to happen. This is the kind of time now, especially when the games are coming thick and fast in December. This is the time where we've really got to go for it, and that's where I really feel like now it's an interesting time because I know a lot of people now, and especially rumours circulating online, and a lot of fans are not happy with Corberan. I think he's got to stay, obviously. And if you look at his record, any manager that has ever managed 100 games at the Albion, he's got the highest win percentage. Don't get me wrong, this is just a bad time. This is where we've got to stick by him. But I also think there's a little bit of onus on him where he's got to accept maybe we need to be a little bit more attacking. I understand it's not as just as simple as that because the reason why we have been playing defensively is so we can. Because in recent weeks we haven't had as strong a back four as this because we've had Callum Stiles at left back at times, with Hegum at centre back, with Holgate and Furlong and things like that. And even at times we had fellows. Like you think about the game when Furlong was out against Sunderland due to I think it was a ban for suspension. You kind of look at it there. I understand what they were trying to do. In games like that, I don't mind. But it's the games against you likes of Preston. No disrespect, but we really should be going to Preston because if you look where Preston are in the league, we should really have gone to Preston and tried to get a better result than we did. But we go there, we play so negatively. And I think another thing is we speak about strength and depth in the squad, and we speak about some of the players that we've got in and around this squad. What I don't like as well is some of the substitutions that he's been making in recent weeks. We can kind of go through some of the substitutions he's been making. So, for example, like against Norwich, I was at the game myself. If you look at the substitutions that were made towards the end, you're bringing on Devante Cole, you're bringing on Rakic, Dobbins, Swift. I don't mind it, but it's how late these substitutions are coming on. You're taking some of your best attacking outlets. When we take off Mowat, we lose. Sorry, Mowat. When we take off Mowat, we lose all control in the middle, and he seems to make that substitution every week. Grant and Madger seem to come off every week before the end, and you're losing your goal threat. And then Johnston and Fellows every single week. It's the same thing. That's the creativity. Then you look against Preston. If you look at the substitutions again, and it's the same substitutions every time. Fellows, creativity. Madger's coming off, even though he's your goal threat. Then you take off Mowat, you lose your control. And this is another thing. And I understand about managing minutes. I get that. But there's something about I'd prefer, and this I feel like every West Brom fan will be like this, risking playing somebody for a full 90 where we control and get the win, and then the next game they don't start. We need to think about this because it's constantly now we're drawing because we're taking off the players like Mowat. We keep losing a lead so often now. We think about how many times we controlled the game in the first half. Like against Norwich, you looked at the way we played in that first half. we were dominating the game, and I understand then we drew. But that second half, when we made the substitutions, we were dominating them in the second half as well, and we really should have won that game. And the substitutions again, the negative substitutions aren't helping us. And this is where I've kind of got to look at Corberán and think, what's going on? Is he trying to make a point? Because I've read as well online that there's some thought process. Is he trying to make a stand against the board to try and say, look, we need more players? I've only got your likes of Madja really as a striker. Yes, Grant I know has been playing in and around, whether he plays second striker on the wing, he's been playing kind of everywhere in and around the forward line. But bar them two, we haven't really got anyone other than Devante Cole who he doesn't seem to trust. But you look at your likes of Diakite, who doesn't seem to be trusted too often as well. There's not that much strength and depth. So I understand that maybe he's trying to make a point of getting some more signings in, but I just want a little bit more from this team at the minute. But I'm going to say straight away, I am very happy with the Albion. Like I'm still happy with Corberán. I'm not Corberán out. I want him to stay. I don't. I'm not suggesting I want anything else because I know there have been a lot of people who want more from him than there was people who want him out, maybe, and things like that. I think we've got to just step back and assess the situation. Yes, performances haven't been great recently, and there's been a lot of draws, but we're currently sat seventh in the league. We're still within touching distance. So I think that is a promising sign. And the fact that we aren't conceding, I think, is a really good start. It's a really good foundation to have. But I just want to see a little bit more going forward. I'm intrigued to hear what everyone else's thoughts as West Bromwich Albion fans and tell me what they think. I feel like there's been a lot of unlucky decisions, a lot of unlucky moments as well with kind of some of the injuries we've had and things like that. But I'm intrigued to see what you think. The thing for me is the substitutions. And I know the boos were ringing out. I've got some friends who were at the game against Preston when Madja was taken off towards the end. It's quite frustrating because it's like that's when you feel like the game is being given, like you're giving up on the game. Because when you look at the seasonal team and the team that's played the most games, this is an incredible starting 11. Like I really, really like this team, but the problem is we don't get this. We don't ever seem to get this too often, and that's where I just a little bit frustrated. I just want a little bit more, but let me know your thoughts. I'm not happy with the substitutions, and I do think we need to sign maybe some loan signs if we can. Maybe get rid of send Dobbin back and try and see if we can get anybody in, maybe even just some free. Just we need some extra legs in this team. There's not really strength and depth, especially in the midfield and going forward. And I think the creative spark in this team just needs a little bit something extra. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Yeah, I don't know how I feel quite right now as an Albion fan. I'm a bit frustrated. I'm a bit conflicted. I understand it's a little bit negative, but still we are within touching distance, so it is still a positive, and we're not losing games again, which is a positive. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thank you. See you guys soon.